Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, January 30th, 2017. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. And how perfect to have the Dean in here just 2 days away from National Signing Day. I started a thread on the Front Row message board yesterday, Bill, asking our Bucknut subscribers to shoot you some questions, and they did just that, and I'll finish the show with some additional questions. But let's start with the questions from our readers. Leading off is Dan Moss. He asks, can you give me Bill's opinion regarding Alabama's 2017 class versus Ohio State's class? Quality versus quantity? What do you say, Dean?
Well, there's no question that quality-wise, Ohio State has the better class. You know, it's going to be the highest-rated class, it looks like, quality-wise in 247 sports history. And on the other hand, there's no question that Alabama has the quantity over Ohio State. They're going to sign more players, but that was a given. Everybody knew that Ohio State wasn't going to have a large class this time around, which, you know, you've got to think that's kind of a sign of a good thing, because that means Ohio State has a very young team, a lot of players coming back from a team that went to the college football playoff and all, so that's positive. So, you know, certainly Alabama has the advantage. Well, if you take more prospects, the odds favor, you know, you having more of them work out. But personally, I would go for quality over quantity. You know, when you get the type of players that Ohio State is bringing in this class, the 5 stars and all that, and so many high 4 stars, that's, you know, Urban Meyer and his staff have really done a spectacular job.
Our next question comes from WJ James 01. He asks, what does Bill think of this 2017 class overall for the Buckeyes? I know we were all crazy about the 5 stars like Wade, Okudah, and Browning. However, what 2 to 3 players does Bill think really could make an impact over the next year or two?
Well, I think it's a spectacular class. There's no question about that. And as far as the ones that are going to make an impact over the next year or two, you know, I'd have to start with Jeffrey Okudah. You know, I've seen him in person on multiple occasions. I saw him in person in San Antonio during the U.S. Army All-American Bowl practices. I saw him in person when he was at Ohio State, and the kid is a real deal. You know, he's a tremendous cover cornerback prospect that also has the size and skills to play safety. He's coming in as a corner. You know, there are obviously openings, the opportunities there with Ohio State losing both their starting corners to the NFL, so he would certainly be one I would pick. When you talk about opportunity, Baron Browning, you know, there's a linebacker spot open, and, you know, he's got a body that's pretty much ready right now for college football. He's 6'2", 230 pounds. Comes from the talent-rich state of Texas and is here an early enrollee, so I think he's another one. And then the other guy that I really like is Shaun Wade. You know, he's played in a good schedule, played at Trinity Christian, and again, a state talent-rich. And then obviously I like Chase Young, the defensive end out of DeMatha High School. Just a tremendous prospect, and really showed that he is an elite prospect at the Army Bowl practices and during the Army Bowl game.
Next question comes from PS3 Brandon. He asked, Bill has talked about Josh Myers being the best offensive lineman from Ohio that he has seen since Orlando Pace and Corey Stringer. Bill, do you think Jackson Carman will be better than Myers? He says he loves Myers as a prospect, but I love Carman even more. Thanks, Bill.
Well, that's a tough question because they are both tremendous prospects. And again, I've seen both of them in person. I've obviously seen their films as well. Myers is so athletic for a guy his size. You know, he measured at the Army Bowl, and these are legitimate measurements. These aren't just numbers that sometimes are fudged a little bit, but he was measured at 6'5", 313 pounds, and runs extremely well. That's the thing that I like best about Josh Myers is not only his power, but his ability to run. He is going to have to continue his work on pass blocking. Yeah, I think that's something that he knows he's got to work on. But that's a transition for all high school players to make that jump and be a good in pass protection at the college level, at the Ohio State level. As far as Jackson Carman, I love his nastiness on the field. He doesn't want to just block you. He wants to finish you off and finish you off again. He's got some great physical skills, slightly taller, just slightly taller than Josh Myers, not quite as heavy yet and not quite as strong, but he has a chance to be just as good as any offensive lineman in the country for the class of 2018.
Last two questions from our subscribers, and they come from the same person. That is Packer Buck. So Packer Buck's first question is, ever since the early entry rule in college football was adopted, Bill, would you say Ohio State is at the top of the list nationwide all time for number of early entries for the NFL draft?
Wow, that's a great question. I haven't looked at the numbers on that, but I got to say that if they're not at the top, they're very high. And again, it's a double-edged sword. You want those great players and you want them to come in and excel, but when it's time to leave, it's kind of hard to watch them go. You know, it's kind of hard to watch your two starting cornerbacks leave when they have some eligibility left, for instance, and Ezekiel Elliott. But you can't blame those guys. Ezekiel Elliott and Joey Bosa absolutely made the right decisions. There's no question about that. So, I would say that Ohio State probably does without actually doing a study on it. And again, you can use that in your recruiting, which Ohio State does. They use that as a recruiting tool, and it's a great one that, come to Ohio State, we're going to develop you, and you're going to get to the league if you work hard and do what you're supposed to do.
This kind of leads into his next question. He says, with the most recent trend of Buckeye underclassmen declaring for the college football draft and the high success rate of talent going and projected to go in early rounds, could Ohio State be viewed as the football equivalent to Kentucky basketball in reference to recruiting and early entries?
I've heard that comparison as well. I don't know that I think it's a particularly valid comparison because the rules are so different. The one and done for college basketball, I really think needs to be changed. I don't like that rule at all. I think you've got to go at least 2 years, either, let them go out of high school or they've got to go to college for at least 2, if not 3 years. And because of that, I think it's a little bit different situation. At Kentucky, you've got so many guys leaving after just 1 year that they can't do that obviously in college football. So I think it's a little bit different situation. So I'm not sure I will really like that comparison so much.
All right, now for my questions for you, Dean. Here we are 2 days away from signing day, which is so exciting. We talk about these guys all year, and signing day is just, Christmas morning for recruiting fans. Give us the latest on Thayer Munford. I know you've talked ad nauseum about him and written ad nauseum about him, but what is the absolute latest with Thayer Munford? What do fans need to know going into signing day regarding him?
Well, he did make another visit to Ohio State this weekend. He visited Ohio State again on Saturday, obviously an unofficial visit this time because he already made his official visit. It went well. Talked to his coach, Nate Moore, the outstanding coach at Massillon Washington High School, and Nate was with him on a visit. Thayer's mom made the trip up from Cincinnati. She was on the visit. Everything went well, but still there's no clarity on exactly what or when he's going to do it. They still hope that something will be done on National Signing Day or before as far as equipment, but that's not a definite at this point. And I hope to have some more information today or at the latest tomorrow on Thayer's situation. But my gut feeling remains that in the end, when it's all said and done, whether that be in the next day or two or a National Signing Day or after even, I still think that the likelihood is he's going to be an Ohio State Buckeye.
Marvin Wilson will announce on signing day. What's the absolute latest with Marvin Wilson?
Well, it's thinking time for Marvin, and he's doing a lot of it. As I put in what I am hearing on Sunday night, he's going to sit down at that table on National Signing Day, and it's going to be nationally televised on ESPNU, I believe, but it's going to be on ESPN. It's going to be nationally televised, his decision. He'll be there. He'll have 4, and maybe he's going to throw a 5th hat in there, and he's going to pick one of the hats. I still think it's basically 3 schools. I think it's Florida State. I think it's LSU. I think it's Ohio State. My gut feeling remains that he's going to be in the South until I have something that I feel strongly enough to change my mind. I'm going to think he's going to stay in the South and go with either LSU or Florida State. And I think a little bit sometimes people are dismissing Florida State on this one as compared to LSU. I think Florida State has a just as good pretty much the chance as LSU, and we'll see. Will he shock the world and pick Ohio State? I absolutely would not rule that out. But again, my gut feeling is he stays in the South.
And Jaylen Hurd, what is the absolute latest with Jaylen Hurd? Is there a possibility that he actually will graduate this summer so he can, be immediately eligible this fall? And do you think he's going to end up at Ohio State?
As far as ending up at Ohio State, that's really hard to say at this point. And talked to Martin Simmons last night, who does an outstanding job for 247 Sports and who is extremely well connected in the state of Tennessee. That's where he lives, and is connected with Jalen Hurd. He and I talked about that situation. I believe he's going to do something this morning, something additional on that situation. And really the situation was the visit went well. But it wasn't a visit where he was going to make a decision. He doesn't want to rush through things this time around. He was an early enrollee, and I think he feels, and Barton thinks he feels that he might have gone through the process pretty quickly the first time around. This time he feels he has to get it correct. And the likelihood is that he will not be someone that graduates and is able to transfer and be eligible. So I think unless something changes, you're looking at somebody that's going to go to a school and have to sit out a year. Will that be Ohio State? It remains to be seen. But, the people that want him or think he's going to go in and wherever he goes be a running back, probably are going to be a little bit disappointed because he really is thinking more along the lines of some type of receiver position, whether it be a H-back, a receiver or a wide receiver, some type of receiver position that could help him get to the next level. So I think that's what you're looking at. And the schools right now you're looking at are Ohio State is one of the schools. Obviously made an official visit to. He's been to Cal. May or may not go to Louisville. That's a possibility. And then I think you're going to see one or two other schools emerge, and from that group of schools, he'll make a decision. It just won't be by National Signing Day.
Hey, Bill, before I let you go, are there going to be any surprises? Could there be any surprises before National Signing Day? And not that you would know what those are, they wouldn't be surprises. Do you anticipate any surprises here in the next couple of days?
Well, I think the things I would look at would be, what does Elijah Gardiner do? And we may know that today. He made an official visit to Ohio State this past weekend, and it went extremely well from what I'm told. So what does he do now? Does he officially have an offer from Ohio State? And if he does he take that offer and run with it? Does he flip from Missouri? So that would be kind of something we know about, but he wasn't a name that was talked about much prior to the last week or two. And then the other surprise, I think, would be if Ohio State is able to land one of these defensive tackles. Everybody has Marvin Wilson. Seems like everybody has him going somewhere else, in most cases LSU or Florida State. And then everybody has Jay Cafelli either going to Utah or perhaps USC. So if Ohio State was able to land one of those, and I don't think it's out of the question, I just don't, it would be maybe a little unlikely, but not out of the question. If Ohio State is able to land one of those, to me, that would be the big surprise that Urban Meyer would have for the class of 2017.
Fantastic insights from the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. We wouldn't expect anything less. Thank you very much, Bill, and thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I hope you have a great day. Let's hear some Buckeye swag, best damn band in the lane.